everyone. Welcome to the show. Today's guest is going to talk about a subject that we should all be concerned with, and that is the homeless situation. I'm really eager to hear what he has to say. So here he is, ladies and gentlemen, Brian Goldstone. Brian, thanks so much for being here.
Oh, you're very welcome.
What is your take on the homeless situation?
Well, first of all, we need to divide the term homeless into different groups of people.
Okay.
So you have a group of people that you don't really see on the street. They are homeless. They're not drug abusers. They're not. They're simply people that can't afford housing.
All right.
They're actually really easy to deal with and easy to get housing for. There's usually a way we can get them in somewhere.
Okay.
We start making phone calls. We transport them if necessary and get them into different places to get them off the streets.
Right.
The other group is our drug abusers, and that's the largest portion of the group. It's about 90% of those you see on the street are addicted to one of two drugs, the one being fentanyl,
right.
Which they refer to now as down, which is the old term for heroin. Heroin is almost non-existent now.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So fentanyl, which comes from China, is the primary drug on the street.
Right.
The other one is crystal meth, and they're two different groups. The one, the crystal meth, is an upper, it's a high, and of course the fentanyl is a downer. It's a synthetic opioid, so it's a downer and it's a low. So you have those two groups on the street, and those are the ones that are more difficult to deal with.
Right.
Difficult in the sense that they're harder to house, they're harder to get off the streets because their money goes to the drug.
Right, yeah.
You know, I know guys out there that are spending up to $200 a day.
Wow.
To get their drugs. Well,
and where do they get that money, right? That's the thing.
Unfortunately, you either have to be a hooker, be a drug dealer on the street level, or you have to be a thief. You've got to shoplift or steal to get your drugs. You couldn't pick up enough cans and bottles, and many of them do that also, but very rarely can they get enough to do that.
Right.
There is also a third group out there that do drugs occasionally. They're not addicted, but they're also on the streets. And there's a number of those that we are working with right now to try and get off the streets. The new housing is going to help a lot to get a lot of these people off the streets,
right.
And that's going to help us overall.
Right.
But the big thing is to get these guys out of the drug, get them back into mainstream society. The majority of our homeless out there are harmless.
Yeah. And unfortunately, there's a lot of, as you know, there's a lot of seniors here in the Chilliwack area, and they say they're afraid to walk in certain areas. Well, even in daytime now, some people are afraid to do that, you know, and I think that's the saddest thing, you know?
It is, and it's a misconception.
I agree with you.
I have not dealt with any cases of any of the homeless people going after elderly or... It's just not done. The big thing is, don't try and interact with them.
Right.
You don't know if they're high or not, and interacting, you may get a negative response. You know, we interact with them all the time because that's our job.
Sure.
Same with the police, the ambulance, and the fire. That we interact with homeless more than anyone else in Chilliwack is our particular company. That's our main job here, is dealing with the homeless situation. They know us really well and generally react with us pretty well, but you never know what reaction you're going to get. So don't yell at them to move if they're in your way. You know, I wouldn't certainly try and force them to move or leave. That's what you call security for, you call the police for. Them saying, gee, can you give me change for food? They're not wanting change for food. They're wanting change for drugs.
That's right. That's why I always offer, if you want food, I'll take you, but I'm not giving you cash.
Yeah, you know, we don't recommend you go anywhere with them.
Yeah.
Again, you don't know who you're dealing with.
Right.
And you don't know if they're going to become violent or they're going to try and grab something from you. Simply don't interact with them and you won't have a problem with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's really informative. I'm really glad to know all these things.
Yeah, we don't recommend anyone interact with them.
Right, yeah. We're going to just have a quick break, okay?
Sure.
Stay tuned. We will be right back.
I wanna know about you, your life's a story.
We're back. I'm here with Brian Goldstone, and we're talking about the homeless situation here in Chilliwack. And you were just talking about the needles and why we shouldn't pick them up.
Yeah, the big fear, of course, has always been AIDS, but AIDS actually doesn't live outside the body for more than a few seconds.
Okay.
So that's not really an issue. Getting poked by a needle, though, you have the hepatitis A, B, and C. They can be transmitted. But the bigger issue nowadays is fentanyl. Some of the fentanyls are skin absorbable. If there's fentanyl on that needle and you pick it up with your bare hands, you could have it absorbed into your system and you go down from the fentanyl.
Wow.
And it can be deadly. It is so potent that for a non-user, 1 grain of salt is enough to kill you.
Oh my goodness.
It's very, very low. So we don't want people picking them up. We don't want them touching them. Even picking up with a Kleenex is not necessarily a good way to do it.
Right.
And then they have to be properly disposed of. You can't throw it in your garbage.
Yeah.
So we prefer people call us, we will come pick them up, and we will properly dispose of them. A lot of the ones we're finding today actually are loaded. They actually still have a fair amount of fentanyl in them. This is because the addicts know how powerful it's got, and they don't want to overdose. So they'll start the injection. Once they get high, they stop. They stop pushing on the syringe. It's not like the heroin days when they put the whole thing in. Unfortunately, what happens next is when they're high, a lot of times they'll walk around, and that needle will follow their arm beyond the sidewalk or on the street somewhere. All you have to do is pick up the phone. Within a few minutes, we will be there. We will pick it up, and we will remove that properly and dispose of it through Fraser Health.
So when you say we, who are they called?
Griffin Security.
Griffin Security?
Yep. It doesn't cost anything. It's paid for by Fraser Health and by the city.
Right.
So we'll go pick them up anywhere, day or night. Doesn't matter what time it is. Even in your backyard. We've had that a few times where someone's tossed them into someone's backyard. We will come get them.
I was going to ask you why you started the security business. Like, how did that come about?
When I retired from the RCMP, I moved with my family to Costa Rica. Owned a hotel on the beach, did that for a few years.
Sounds nice.
It was fun. Then became a real estate developer offshore with another Canadian. And we built a Western resort in Costa Rica in a place called Playas del Coco. Beautiful little resort, 650 acres with a golf course. We then were invited to go to the island of Grand Cayman, and we built the Ritz-Carlton Grand Cayman, came with the Greg Norman golf course. Wow. I then retired and lived on a sailboat out of the British Virgin Islands for a few years, and then came back here and got bored. So I started this to something else to do, and it's been growing like crazy.
How many employees do you have?
About 80 right at the moment, yeah.
Okay, and what kind of training do they receive?
Well, it depends on what job they're going to do. Everybody has to have the basic training, which is their basic security training. They must be licensed. That's a course in law, a little bit of report writing and stuff. And then we've developed a bunch of courses that we have in-house that they can take. Some of it's on-the-job training. Right. But homeless interaction is one, how to deal with that. We try and get as many of our guards to take a course called MOAB, Management of Aggressive Behavior. Okay. Excellent course on dealing with anyone who's upset or having some type of episode. So majority of our guys out there do have Narcan training, and we have 2 Narcan instructors on board. We have a full classroom. And then we have on-site training where, depending on what job you're doing, we train you for that job. So it just depends on what you're doing and what you want to do with us. We have a variety of work.
Like, do you ever have to get physical with any of the people on the streets?
Yep. Yeah? It happens, and not just street people. We also do loss prevention, shoplifting, and that kind of stuff. So we have to be arresting people for that. Right. To arrest people, not to arrest, but anyone can arrest. The laws are there for you. You could arrest someone. Yes, right. But you have to know how to do it. With us, to handcuff them, you have to have another course called Advanced Security Training. That is self-defense techniques, handcuffing techniques, takedown techniques.
Just switching gears, because I want to. I believe you have a nickname. What's your nickname?
Goldie.
Goldie, and why do you have that nickname?
When I was in the police force, there was a commercial on for Golden Delicious apples, my last name being Goldstone, and there was this dancing apple, and it came out with, at one point another apple says to it, "You tell him Goldie," because she was saying how great these apples were. Oh. And one of the guys thought that was funny and made it my nickname, and it stuck for my entire career.
How long were you with the RCMP?
21 years.
Oh, okay, so you retired from that.
Yep.
And I'm not thinking, you went to a warm climate, really warm climate, and then you come back to this climate, like it's kind of a big switch back and forth.
I'll do the warm climate again when I retire.
Would you? Yeah.
That's my goal. I'll do this for a few more years, and then
Can you adopt me and take me with you?
Oh, sure. Can you scrub the hull of the boat?
Yes.
Perfect. We're done.
Okay, great. And we're out of time, so we're done. But I would love to have you back at some point because I find this whole thing fascinating.
By all means, we'd love to come back and talk to you.
Thanks so much for being here. Thank you for watching. Hope to see you next time right here on Small Talk. Peace out.